Laura Cassidy with QBK9 Training. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk with you about my training philosophy and some of the tools and methods that I use. I take a behavioral approach to training. So before we even get started, I like to hear from you what behaviors you're seeing. If you have videos of the dog, I love to see the videos. I like to hear from you what concerns you have. I like to meet the dog, observe what's going on, and take all of that into consideration. From there, I like to set up a means of communication with the dog. Since we can't sit down with the dog and say, look, it's not really cool when you lose it every time another dog walks by on the street, or hey, getting stressed out in your crate isn't necessarily such a great thing. Really hard to kind of sit down and have that conversation, so we have to find other means of communication with our dogs. One of the most important training tools that I think we have is ourselves. So the way we carry ourselves, our energy, our intention, our frame of mind, body language, tone of voice, all of those things our dogs are continually scanning and taking a read on, and it impacts training more than we realize. So I work with myself and my clients to be really intentional about what we bring to our dogs in terms of the nonverbals. Another tool that I use a lot is praise and reward, especially when the dogs are doing what we want them to do. So whether that be food, verbal, good dog, touch, all of those things I use when training dogs. I also use training collars. I think training collars are a very effective way of showing the dog especially what we want them to do and what we don't want them to do. Now, some of these training collars can be a little bit intimidating, and I admit when I first started working with them, I was a little bit intimidated at first until I learned how they worked and how to safely use them with our dogs. This is the Prom Collar. The brand I like to use is Herm Springer. Very high quality, has rounded tips inside here, so very safe to use with your dogs. Your dogs are not going to get punctured by this or anything crazy like that. The way it's designed is actually specifically designed not to harm your dog. It's designed to exert even pressure around the perimeter of the neck, and these collars are much less physically taxing than some other traditional collars. So when you see a dog and it's pulling against its flat collar, just one of those flat collars, a lot of pressure is exerted on the larynx and trachea area. So the dog's pulling, all the pressure's right here, and it's very physically taxing on the dogs. These collars, when introduced properly, and we don't just put them on and start jerking the dogs around or anything crazy like that. There's a whole prong collar dance, we like to call it, that we do with the dogs. We put these on. When these are introduced properly, they're a very effective way of communicating with the dog, and you see the dog actually start to build more confidence and understand, oh, is that what you're asking me to do? Now I understand. And they start, their behavior starts changing. So this is one of the tools that we use. Again, very safe. It will only close to a certain extent. No danger of choking your dog, anything else like that. Used in supervised and training conditions only. Another great tool that I like to use is the remote electronic collar. These collars, again, when introduced to the dogs properly, are very effective means of communication. The sensation on these e-collars is a very light, tingly sensation, similar to if you've ever had physical therapy and they put the TENS unit on, they put little stickers on your muscles to help make them contract. It's exactly what it feels like. It's a little tingly feeling. I felt it on myself. I encourage my clients when we work with their dogs to feel it on them so they can understand what the dog's feeling. Introducing it to the dogs in a very controlled environment, so the dogs, and also taking the read on the dogs. We're always, assessing our dogs and seeing what feedback they're giving us. And then we know if the means of communication is working or not. So again, not just putting this on and cranking it up or anything crazy like that. Introducing it low level, e-collar, modern training is what we do. And watching to see what the dog's reaction is, using it with the command so the dog starts understanding, oh, this is what you want me to do, this is what you don't want me to do. An added bonus to these e-collars is that they are waterproof, and all of my personal dogs are e-collar trained, so we took all 3 of them to the beach last week, my husband and I, and it was great. It gives you a lot of freedom with your dogs. We were able to have the dogs on the beach, running in and out of the water, staying close by. If another dog came over or something like that, we could reliably call our dogs back to us, have them heel and sit right next to us. It's a great tool for that. The sensation is also felt up to a half mile away, so it really gives you a lot of freedom with your dogs. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video about my training philosophy and some of the tools and methods that I use. Please let me know if you have any questions at all, and I really look forward to meeting you and working with you and your dog.